This is Devin Hasenflue. I'm product manager at Percussion Brands here at the Dario. We're out here in Farmingdale, Long Island, New York, at the main percussion manufacturing facility here for the Dario, where we make all Evans Drumheads, ProMark Mallets, and Puresound Snare Wires. Starting here in our mallet cell, where also some of our Evans accessories are packed as well. So we'll take you through the whole step process. Let's go. So here we have our sound off mutes. We apply a silicone logo here to all of them to make sure, hey, you know where this is made and where it's from, but all this product is here and sourced and manufactured in the US. But main part of this area again here is ProMark Mallets, so we're gonna walk through some of the key components in inventory this way. So in the ProMark portfolio, we have numerous mallets, unwrapped, wrapped either with cord or with yarn. We have timpani mallets as well, bass drum mallets, gong mallets, pretty much anything you would need a mallet for, we manufacture it here in New York. But most notably, all of our keyboard percussion mallets, majority of the mallet heads, anything that has a polymer or a plastic attached to it, we injection mold here in New York, and we can perfectly control the shape, the diameter, the hardness of the material. And in here we have our patented mallet insert, which contains threads that allows us to not only add weights around that insert to influence the throw of the mallet, but also to ensure that these mallet heads aren't flying off, whether you're on a stage, you're on the front lines of a marching ensemble. ProMark mallet heads are gonna be all good to go. All these mallets that are made here are gonna be being used at many of the main DCI groups that you'll see this summer. A number of our series, including the Spire series, the Jim Wunderlich lineup, the Diversity line, the Andrew Markworth, so you'll be able to see these mallets in action live at DCI this summer. So now we're gonna go over the handles. For all the handles, they're sorted by either by mallet type or diameter. Most notably, majority of our bass drum mallets for the marching space have this sort of taper in here to make sure you can get a nice throw, but they're still lightweight, so you can be pretty nimble when playing fast runs across the line. And then we also have, for mainly the keyboard mallets, a rattan, which is a naturally recurring material that's more flexible. You most commonly see this in unwrapped mallets along with vibraphone mallets. And then we also have birch as our primary mallet handle material that we use across majority of the Spire marimba line and other various mallet lines we have here, including the Evelyn Glennie Signature Mallet series, all use unfinished birch handles. So moving through all these here, again, we have timpani. We have some of these synthetic ones as well that we'll utilize for the education space, like for those ORF instruments that you may have in your classroom. We want to make sure you have a very durable mallet handle at the elementary level to make sure you have something that's going to last quite a long time in the classroom, but also not splinter or cause any issues with your students. So that's pretty much all the mallet handles that we have here. So at this point, you've seen mallet heads, mallet handles. Now we got to go to assembly on how we put this stuff together. So all these operators here are specifically trained in this area. With the Dario, we have our own kind of proprietary process for string manufacturing, right? So we've pretty much taken that vision and put it into mallet wrapping. So with mallet wrapping, we can now consistently wrap the appropriate tension, amount of cord or yarn, at the right amount of speed across these mallet heads to ensure consistency, whether you're buying these today or you're buying them 6 months from now from Steve Weiss. You know that you're going to have the same performance from pair to pair throughout your tenure of playing. So this is the final finishing step. That this is something that a machine can't really do, is the final stitch at the top and the bottom layer of the mallets. So these are all hand stitched that are all specified, so there's an actual method to this, and we have a manual for every mallet line that gets put out here. So once everything's kind of wrapped up and ready to go, this is the last finishing step until we do a changeover, load some new material into the machine for the next manufacturing order. Hey, it's Devin again. We're now over to the Real Feel assembly area for our practice pads. Many of you may remember Real Feel as HQ Percussion back in the day, but we acquired the brand back in the early 2000s around there. So we're still using great MDF bass, 8-sided shape, which is our design trademark. For our single-sided pads, we have these nice non-slip pads to make sure your pad's not doing the old pad dance on a tabletop. But we get this rubber in rolls and in sheets, and then we die cut it to the appropriate shape, and this gets adhered onto the top of a pad to make sure that, you know, as you're traveling on a bus to a competition, or you're in your dorm room, wherever you may be, your practice studio, that you're gonna have a very similar playing experience to a snare drum as you would with a real feel pad here. So we have a number of the sizes already pre-cut. We have 6, we have 7, additional 12s, and then we have our recycled rubber as well down here for our 2-sided pad. But all real feel pads here are assembled with USA source materials and made in the USA. All right, so over here we have our Puresound Snare Wire manufacturing cell. So all the Puresound Snare Wires from your favorites of the Super 30s, the Equalizer, the Custom Pro are all assembled here. All the components are stored in the back racks over this way, and essentially everything is perfectly and consistently manufactured due to the different manufacturing dies we have set up. So everything is precision soldered, hand finished to make sure there's no little sharp edges or burrs on the end of that wire, and hand polished and ready to go and packaged up to Steve Weiss's warehouse, all set to go. We're over here now at Evans Drumheads production. Every single Evans made drumhead comes out of this facility behind us here. You'll see every process from hoop forming, film cutting, shaping our level 360 collars, and then finally assembly printing, and even some cool custom printing opportunities we have here at Evans Drumheads. Here at Evans, we offer a custom drumhead program where we can pretty much print the majority of any design that you would really want, either your band's logo, your marching group's logo, wedding celebration, anniversaries, whatever you really want. We can essentially print it here. But besides that, we also print some of our technologies here. So here you'll see the System Blue tenor heads are being printed right now. On the underside of the film, we print a gradient design that denotes kind of the striking zone for your tenors. But it's similar technology is derived from our EC2 heads. So here's an EC head kind of still in process, but the bottom side features layers of this ink known as our sound shaping technology that gives it a little bit of that damping, a nice control. Very similar to a G2, but just kind of controlling a bit of those overtones over time. And of course you have some custom designs here, which you may recognize and may see on tour in a few months shortly. We have basically 2 of these setups here and are able to kind of just get a lot of things streamlined up, and with the consistency of digital printing, it allows us to do things in mass very, very consistently over time. So these are custom printed on that printer that you see there. These are some of our MX marching heads. And what we do with our marching designs is we actually, on top of the artwork, we put a very thin 3mm overlay, kind of similar to a snare side head. And that protects the artwork because these things are constantly getting beat up and beat up. So we want to make sure the integrity of your design is remaining on the field. And plus they get a nice little reflection in the light on a nice sunny day in competition. At Evans, we actually form all of our hoops in-house. So you can see here we have this aluminum kind of ribbon stock that goes through a proprietary cold rolling process. We use a cold rolling process to make sure that the strength of the aluminum is not compromised. And then from there, they go back to our soldering stations to make sure that they're perfectly nice and round and ready to go. One thing that sets Evans apart is that on the inside of the collar, there's a little bend over that once the glue is applied to the inside channel of this hoop, that is not going to tear out. So it kind of just creates like a little bit of a bite to make sure that under high tensions that your drum head is not going to tear out of this flesh hoop here. So all these are made on site here. We have multiple lines, and this includes bass drum sizes, and we also do some crimping operation here as well for marching, and then also timpani. And concert bass, which has a bit of a different profile, but all the main DNA is still captured across all the Evans drum heads with this design. So we're back here in the material cutting area. So normally this machine is running different sheets of film. So we keep all of our film stored back over this way in these large 68-inch rolls. But at this point, we're actually cutting our sound-off mutes at the same material. So we receive this in a roll, and this machine here is just cutting a perfect circle to be applied on the top of your drum head surface to make sure that you're getting nice quiet practice and not, killing your neighbors or your family members in the house. But again, this same machine is going to be used to cut all of our films across all of our drum heads to make sure you're getting a nice perfect round piece to work with before it hits the molds and then into gluing. So that's all done here. So any of these synthetic fiber materials we have to laser cut because of how strong that material is. It'll kind of ruin our tooling, and in some cases won't even cut through it. So this is our pipe band material that's got basically a nice Kevlar-like material weave. and then laminated right up here on the top surface with a film to make sure you get that nice crisp attack. So anything that is of that synthetic fiber is laser cut here, along with any thick films such as our conga heads and our bongo heads are all done here as well. And you can see some of that scrap material here and how thick this stuff is. So yeah. So now we got to take that cut film circle and form the level 360 collar. So all of these molds behind me here create that perfectly nice kind of round shaped collar here. This perfect dish across the film. And what this also does, increase these little ridges for our epoxy to really kind of get nice and bitten into, to ensure that this film is not tearing out of that flesh hoop. So once these are done here, the operator, they'll take it and they'll apply it into the hoop themselves by hand, and then they all get glued in this cell here. So we're getting a perfectly controlled amount of glue per drum head, and essentially this is a heated conveyor, or like an elevator really more than anything. And at this point it's heated, so it allows for the epoxy to cure. So now this comes in, and at this point you have a fully functional drum head. So now we got to apply the logo to the head. So in this case, as you saw earlier with our EC2 series, the logo is applied on the printer. So what we're essentially doing here is putting these in line so that we can print the barcode information on the hoop. So if you want to come right up over here, you'll be able to see there's a little computer printer that comes in and pops in the UPC code along with a batch code, so we know when this head was made, which shift, and which item it's going into. So in this case, this looks to be about our 10-inch EC2S tom head. But of course, we have different item numbers for tom packs and different assortments, so all of that is printed here. But in the event that say a G1 is printed on this line, that little pad printer over there would apply the logo to the top surface of the drum head. All right, so we're over here at our spray coating cell. So all of our coated heads, besides our UV coating, are all done with this process over here. So at this point, the head is a uncoated head. The collar is formed, it's glued into the flesh hoop here, but now we have to apply our coating. So what we do in this process here is there's a conveyor belt that comes on over here, and essentially the head is spinning. And once it comes down the conveyor belt, there's a track of an airbrush that comes out and applies our coating to the top surface. So what you end up with here is a perfectly coated surface across the entire head, nice and even coating that's perfect for brush work, and over time it'll wear nicely, and it has quite a good durability over time, whereas our UV coating, of course, being our most durable. But all the white coated heads, our frosted heads, and our strata heads all go through this same process, and of course it takes time for them to dry. They have to go on drying racks, and we also have some ovens back here that help cure that coating to make sure it's nice and firmly bonded to the film. So this is our traditional spray coating. In the spirit of innovation, we wanted to improve coating. So a number of years ago, the team developed a UV cured coating process, which makes the coating about 30% more durable compared to a traditional spray coat. It also allows us to control the surface texture of the top playing surface to make sure you get really, really great, nice and even brush strokes, and just great overall durability. Offered in UV1 and UV2 configuration, so single ply and two ply. And essentially what we're doing here is similar to a screen printing process that comes in with the flat film, and you can see this edge right here is uncoated. That's because we can get a perfectly nice clear 360 edge across that coating, comes down the conveyor, down through a UV lamp, and at that point it is dry. So all we have to do then is go back to film forming and to pop it into here and glue it in, print the logo, and you have a fully functioning UV2 drum head. I would like to thank the Steve Weiss team for coming down and hanging out with us today. Again, we saw ProMark Mallets, a little bit of Puresound Snare Wires, Real Feel practice pads, and all the amazing Evans Drumheads manufactured here in our facility in Farmingdale. And if you want to learn more about our products, please visit steveweissmusic.com and view our selection. Thanks.